Today we're diving into a critical issue that's been making headlines. President Trump's recent calls to nationalize our elections. Many Democrats and independents are raising serious concerns about what this means for our democracy. They're saying that Trump's push to take election control away from local authorities and hand it to the federal government raises questions about his true commitment to free and fair elections. Let's start with what President Trump has been saying. Recently, he's been advocating for federal intervention in the election process. He's argued that the federal government should get involved in overseeing votes, especially in states where he claims there has been horrible corruption. He's made comments suggesting that if states can't run honest elections, then the federal government should step in and take over. For example, he's called for taking over voting procedures in 15 states, though he hasn't specified which ones. This has sparked alarm across the political spectrum. Why? Because it directly challenges the very foundation of how American elections are run. Traditionally, election administration has been a state and local matter, respecting the principles of federalism. But Trump's recent statements suggest a desire to override that system and centralize control, something many see as a dangerous precedent. So why are Democrats and independents so concerned? First, they argue that such a move would undermine trust in elections. When the federal government steps in and overrides local election authorities, it risks politicizing the process. Critics warn that it could open the door to manipulation and diminish transparency, especially in an environment where false claims of election rigging have already eroded confidence.
Mr. President, what exactly did you mean when you said that you should nationalize elections, and which 15 states are you talking about?
I want to see elections be honest, and if a state can't run an election, I think the people behind me should do something about it. Because, if you think about it, a state is an agent for the federal government in elections. I don't know why the federal government doesn't do them anyway. But when you see some of these states about how horribly they run their elections, what a disgrace it is, I think the federal government, when you see crooked elections, and we had plenty of them, and by the way, we had them last time, but go to 2020 and look at the facts that are coming out. Rigged, crooked elections. If we have areas, take a look at Detroit, take a look at Pennsylvania, take a look at Philadelphia. You go take a look at Atlanta, look at some of the places that horrible corruption on elections. And the federal government should not allow that. The federal government should get involved. These are agents of the federal government to count the votes. If they can't count the votes legally and honestly, then somebody else should take over.
The Constitution says it should be states that administer elections, Mr. President. That's what the Constitution
you know what?
says.
They can administer the election, but they have to do it honestly.
Many Democrats point out that Trump's calls seem motivated by a desire to influence election outcomes that don't favor him. The worry is that federal control could be used as a tool to sway results, especially in swing states. They highlight that local officials, who are closest to their communities, have a vested interest in maintaining fair and honest elections. Removing their authority and handing it to federal agencies, which are often viewed with suspicion, could further divide Americans. Independents, meanwhile, tend to value the integrity of the election process. Polls show that a significant majority of independents don't trust the idea of federalizing elections. They believe that local oversight ensures more transparency and accountability. When Trump mentions taking over voting operations, many independents see it as a step toward federal overreach, something they oppose because it threatens the independence of state and local election officials. Now let's look at some numbers. Recent polls indicate that only about 43% of Americans trust that elections are run very well at the federal level. However, that number jumps dramatically when it comes to local elections. Around 69% say their community's elections are very well managed. This discrepancy highlights how much Americans prefer local control, where they feel elections are more transparent and trustworthy. Trump's push to federalize elections appears to ignore this strong public preference. Instead, he frames his calls as a way to fix what he claims are broken systems, but critics argue it's more about consolidating power and questioning the legitimacy of results that don't favor him. This pattern of behavior, questioning election integrity, claiming widespread rigging, and now advocating for federal control, raises serious concerns about his true intentions. Legal experts point out that the U.S. Constitution clearly assigns election authority to the states and local governments. Any move to override that is likely unconstitutional and could face significant legal challenges. But beyond legality, it's the impact on public trust that's most troubling. When voters see efforts to centralize control, especially under claims of corruption or rigging, it fuels skepticism and division. In essence, Democrats and independents see Trump's recent comments as an attempt to sow distrust and reshape the election process in a way that's more susceptible to political influence. They argue that preserving local authority and transparency is essential for maintaining faith in our democracy. Thanks for watching. Like and subscribe for more news on politics and entertainment.